Hi, my name is Joe Mazza, First Selectman of Guilford, and I'm here with Bob Hartmann,
Morning.
who is the Republican endorsed candidate for First Selectman. Morning, Bob.
Good morning, Joe.
Bob went through an extensive process to be the Republican candidate. It started out with the Candidate Recruitment Committee, which you were recommended to the Town Committee, and you won in Town Committee by a vote of 21-7. Am I correct, Bob?
Correct.
Okay. And then you went on to caucus, which was open to the entire registered Republicans,
Right.
and you won there. And now you are the official candidate of the Republicans in the town of Guilford. Bob, why do you want to be First Selectman?
Well, first and foremost, because I love Guilford so much.
Okay.
You know, I was born and raised here. I went through the school system here. I was raised in a family that was very involved. My dad, with you, was a colleague of yours, the Board of Finance, Pension Committee, Selectmen. I grew up with all of this as conversation in the household, and I developed a good appreciation and a good understanding of it. I got involved in town through civic duty, and because I just believe in service above self. I volunteered for the pension committee. I was on the pension committee when I heard you were going to finally retire after 8 fabulous, terrific years, I think. I really felt that was my moment to get involved at that level.
What are some of the issues you see facing the town?
Well, we can start really, everybody wants to talk about the budget and the taxes and managing the money here. I think we've got terrific management. I think it's an everlasting project to keep that going as efficiently as possible. I like to keep the town open and transparent at the government level. I like to point out that we've got 37 volunteer agencies and commissions and boards in town. That's one for about every 600 people. Access to government is fabulous. I want to keep that going. Education is probably one of our greatest assets. We've got a terrific school system for spending the state average per student, and I think that just speaks so well for the town, keeps people coming here, keeps our kids wanting to stay. We attract fabulous families, and I want to keep it that way. I like to keep the culture and character of Guilford intact. I think it's a special place. I think we look after each other in the way other towns admire, and I really like that. But job number one is going to be to protect the people of Guilford from the mismanagement in Hartford. We've got a lot to contend with there.
You know, one of the issues that I've always faced, and I've seen as one of my prime responsibilities, has been the protection and safety of the citizens of Guilford. And number 2 is the education of its students. Okay, and that goes right to the heart of the budget. Okay, and I think I know this year it's very difficult to deliver those services. Okay, not because of what we have done, it's because of what the state can do to us and possibly do to us. Okay, I think we're okay this year because of what we have accumulated in fund balance, okay, and the way we have structured our budget. So I feel pretty good about this year. Now, I'm not too happy with what the state can potentially do to us, and I've been working hard, as you know, with our state reps and dealing with the people up in Hartford. But what concerns me is the future budgets, okay, and what the next budget is going to look like. How would you address that?
We've got to have a good look at exactly where the state is, what's going to happen to us. We're already working with the leaders of the budget process and Dr. Freeman at the schools. You know, on that side, everybody knows that cuts will be coming. It's inevitable, it seems. But we keep the lines of communication open so that they have their hand on the knife when cuts eventually, inevitably are made, so that we keep the value at the highest level possible. We're not just going to go running through this with a knife and just pick a number and that looks high and not understand it.
Right.
So it's all about understanding where cuts will need to be made. We know if the dangers of deferred maintenance. We know what the dangers are of cutting without contemplating. But it's going to happen. It's going to have to happen.
Yeah, I know when I came into office, we were in a bad place, okay? We had aging equipment in our PW, the Public Works Department. We had a dangerously low fund balance. Our credit rating was not the best. And over the last 8 years, we have increased our fund balance to now, like I said, we can weather 1 year of cuts from the state. We've revamped our fleet in the Public Works Department, and our credit rating is AAA.
That's right.
I think the tough job is going to maintain that. And like you said, and you're very wise to observe that, is we can't let any of this slip back.
No.
And I think it's ridiculous when people go around saying that we can slash and burn our budget.
It's incredible. And, anybody can dress something up. Anybody, if you run a successful business, you can dress something up for a little while, but not terribly long.
Right.
And say that you're not hearing anybody complain about it after you've cut some things to the budget. There's a way about being efficient, but then there are other ways that you've got to think for the long term. And what I say is you can cut rafters and joists out of a house, you can cut studs out of walls, and not hear a complaint for a little while until it's just too late. And the process of rebuilding them becomes nearly impossible. And when it comes to education, I talked to the head of the Board of Ed, I believe him when he says, we're up and running at a fabulous level, and it's a 5-star program here. If we cut it to the point where it suffers, putting it back together again would be nearly impossible.
I think that's a great analogy that you made about cutting rafters and cutting studs. It's going to look great for a while.
Yeah.
And then the first storm,
yeah,
building is gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's all about maintenance, about keeping things right. It's about buying properly, spending properly. We all know it's going to be difficult. Nobody's going to enjoy this process.
Right. Right. In some of your literature, you had talked about looking at efficiencies.
Yeah.
Okay.
The town did this some years ago. They set up an efficiency task force, and some recommendations were made. Some were followed through on in late, but the world around us has changed quite a bit. This isn't the same as then. So it's time for us to start a new efficiency task force and stand back a little bit and see what needs to be done.
Bob, tell us something about your background.
Well, I was born and raised here in Guilford. I'm the oldest of 6 kids. Bob and Ellie Hartmann grew up on George Street and then High Meadow Road. I went through to Guilford High School, graduated in 1975, and then on to Connecticut College, where I studied government and economics. And I went straight into banking. And I started as a credit analyst, and it got me into the international field. I got involved in the bond markets, the credit markets. That took me to London. When, as a newlywed, we raised our 2 kids there, but we spent every summer back here and had a local house, and just knew we were going to move back to Guilford. Laura always knew we would. When time finally came, Dad was trying to actually wind his business down. He said, "Do you want the business?" And I said, "Well, yeah, it's a fabulous way to get back into the community." We work very hard, but being self-employed allows me the time to be engaged in some civic duties. I'm on the board of the community fund. I'm the president of Rotary. I'm with the foundation. I'm a friend of the Guilford Mentors, and of course, I'm on the pension committee in town. This is just fascinating. I love everything about the town, and really want to keep it strong.
It's great. So obviously very involved in the town.
Yeah.
I know you just mentioned that you do serve on the pension committee. I represent the Board of Selectmen on the pension committee, and I know you're very active, and you're a valuable member of that committee. And your background in banking it shows being on the pension committee. And by the way, pension is in really good shape.
Terrific shape. And our advisors tell us that in terms of the state of Connecticut, we are probably one of the best managed pension committees in town. And of course, I found it that way. I'm not taking any credit for anybody else's work, but I think it's brilliant. And I think if I had that much money myself, I'd invest it exactly the same way.
Let's talk a little bit about town services. What's your vision about either improving town services? I'm talking about emergency services, the police, fire. We got to throw public works in there. I was really baptized in my first term when we had Irene, and you really get a sense of how you got to pull all your services, emergency services, including public services, together to get the town up and running. And it's one thing to talk about finances.
Yeah.
It's another thing to talk about getting the power turned on after a week without power.
And keeping everybody warm and dry. It's true.
That's right.
We've got...
How would you, go about handling a
Well, we've got
situation
probably
like
one
that?
of the best fire departments in the state.
Agreed. Yeah.
Chief Hirschhoff's done a fabulous
Yeah.
job. The guys there are all very dedicated. We're getting them pretty good equipment. Some of it's quite old, but we're getting them good equipment. And they're trained at the highest level. As you pointed out to me, it's not just firefighting that they do. There's other services like pumping and the like. The police department is running. They're slightly understaffed, but fabulous culture. Chief Hutchinson is doing a great job over there as well. And Public Works, we've got a great job over there in town engineering. Of course, we've made the decision to take a lot of the work on ourselves,
Right.
rather than send it out. And the indications are that we're saving a great deal of money by keeping it all in-house. The other thing, too, is that when you have somebody who's from town, is employed in town, working on a town project, there's a certain level of care that they put in that's better than somebody who just shows up every day from an outside contractor. So it's paramount now, especially with the challenges that you mentioned, rising sea levels, we're raising roads, we're keeping people safe. I'd like to point to the big project at the moment down at the bottom of Long Hill Road, where the town's only paying 10% of that. The federal is 80%, the state's 10%, we're only 10%.
Right.
That is a key access point to the fallout to the emergency shelter, which the high school doubles as.
Right.
So, the water runs next to it, the West River, the road is being raised. It's forward thinking. It's great planning. That's the kind of thing that we've got to continue to do. We've raised some roads around town. It's got to continue.
Right. And just as a point of information for people watching this tape, if you don't do that type of flood mitigation or hazard mitigation is another term for it. Doesn't necessarily have to mitigate floods. You're not going to get certain FEMA grants. FEMA says, okay, ever since these hurricanes and these storms, FEMA say, okay, we want you, towns and states, to start mitigating to prevent these floods, to prevent these catastrophes. And even though disasters are going to happen, you'll see what's happening in Texas now. You can't stop the rain. It's going to happen. But you have to do something to mitigate as much as you can. And that's what we're doing in town. I mean, I've heard comments that why are we spending this money on a Long Hill Road? Well, first of all, it's not all of local funds, as you said. Yeah. And I'm impressed that you're one of the few candidates that know this stuff and know where the money is coming from. Yeah, it's all taxpayer dollars, but you're right, 80% is coming from the federal government, 10 from the state, and 10 is a local match, okay? Right. But the West River does run along it. You asked emergency services, you asked fire and police. Even when you get moderate rainfall, that river will flood. And that's a major evacuation route.
Exactly.
And not only that, but that's the route that will be used to get to Guilford High School. Now, why is the Guilford High School important? Because that is a designated emergency shelter. When we built that high school, part of that high school was designated as an emergency shelter along with the community center.
We took hard hat tours when the high school was going up. We were very excited and very encouraged to learn that the high school makes its own power, it makes its own heating, it makes its own cooling, its own clean water source. It is a proper fallout shelter, it's a proper emergency shelter, and I don't know that enough people in town know that. I think it's a fabulous, and it sits on a hill, it's not going to flood, it's just brilliant.
I don't think your opponent realizes that's the route to get to the shelter.
That's right.
So, great. Let's talk about Guilford's character. One of the, I think, problems we have, it's kind of double-edged sword, I shouldn't say problem, is as we want to bring economic development into town, which is very important, and there's been a lot of it, we always run up against the culture and character of Guilford. What is it going to do? How would you balance that out?
Well, it's a fabulous thing. It's a brilliant thing. We've got. I celebrate the fact that we have 31 farms in town.
Yeah.
We have that culture behind us. We have a fairly stable turnover. We have almost no turnover in population. You know, unlike some other towns around, shoreline towns around us, which are noted for their summer populations. We've got a culture, of course, that goes back to 1639. We've got these the third largest collection of historic houses in Guilford and in all of New England. The largest town green. It's a unique, brilliant place. At the same time, we've got an aging population. We've got people to look after. We've got this education system and services to protect, and we've got to grow the grand list. And how do we do this without disturbing the balance? Some of the things we know from our business here at the Hartmann Group is that there are people moving to town because they're either being employed by the growing healthcare industry or the high-tech industry. So this is the sort of thing that we can bring to town without disturbing the balance, without the flow. We literally have people moving to Guilford from Silicon Valley. We have people moving to Guilford from around the 128 route in Boston. I don't like to tell you they think it's cheap to live here compared to where they were, but it's true. They do. It's good value. And they are brought here rather than other towns because of our education system, and they are buying houses and spending their money locally, and they are thrilled to be here, and so should we all. So, you know, growing the grand list means getting people into town that are willing to pay for services, willing to employ people. You know, all I want is for neighbors around me to be employed. That's brilliant. But we also have to grow the grand list from the top down. We need some new, clean, diversified, hopefully high-tech businesses that don't disturb anybody around them.
Great. Bob, how do you feel about the senior tax rates program?
I'm very much in favor of it. I've seen all the good that it's done. I have to admit to some bias here because it was you and my dad who wrote it. And at the time when you wrote it, Guilford was giving, it was relatively new, a new concept in the state, but it gave more protection for the seniors than any other town in the state. And I think it's fabulous that we're able to protect the culture and protect the character of Guilford by not forcing people to leave their house or sell it for tax reasons. They stay here, they stay near their grandchildren. We like the idea that they keep their love, care, and attention near us. And it's helped people I know when they do finally, if they do finally pass away, they leave the house, and the taxes go back up on the house. That puts the house on the market. It'll either be rented by somebody to cover the taxes or purchased by somebody else. So I'm very much in favor of it. I think it's a small cost to everybody in town for a fabulous benefit. It's well worth it.
Yeah, I think that's one misconception that I run up against all the time is people who are not on the program or think that it's a cost to the town. It's not. We all pay a little piece of it. Probably cost us $50 to $70 more in taxes to keep. At this point, it's about 800 households, senior households, who stay in Guilford.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of offsetting benefits. First of all, you keep seniors in town who have lived in town for at least 20 years, who have paid their taxes for 20 years, and have contributed to the town for 20 years in many ways.
Yeah.
You mentioned all of the boards and commissions. I always say that the town couldn't run like it is without all the volunteer help. I mean, you imagine what our tax rate would be if we had to pay all these people.
Absolutely.
Right?
It's all volunteer.
It's all volunteer. The other benefit is that if these 800 homes were to be sold to younger families, nothing against younger families, it would raise the school population.
We'd be providing services. That's
Right.
true.
Right.
And the reality is, when you put this in, we had no way really of knowing exactly what the population would do,
Right.
and what the school enrollment would do.
Right.
And if you hadn't put that in, we would have by now built probably more buildings to cope with, to provide more services. That would be sitting fallow right now. Yeah.
And right now, the school population, I think because of the new high school, is pretty flat.
Yeah.
I mean, where other towns have lost population,
Yeah.
Have lost school and school population, we're pretty constant,
That's right.
and which is good for the economy of the town.
It is.
You know, the businesses like it; they're doing well in town. So it's we keep the seniors here, and a lot of people staying in town or coming in to make up for the ones that are leaving.
They certainly are coming in. But, you know, it's wonderful to have these people here and to stay near their children and grandchildren.
That's right.
You know.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right. Bob, we've been talking now for, I don't know, somewhere about 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you'd like to tell the folks?
Well, I can tell you that I feel like I'm kind of repeating myself, really, but I've been lucky enough to live in different places. Born and raised here, left here when I was in my early 30s, and just think and came back again, just simply because of our affection for the town and our true appreciation of it. I want to serve. I'm used to it. I put service above self in everything that we do. I was brought up that way, and I'm very proud of my parents, and look forward to helping the people of Guilford go forward. But the job really isn't, it's just not about the numbers. It's about getting everybody on the same page. We mentioned all these town boards and agencies and commissions. It's about running around. I'm sure you do a great job of it. I see you at all the meetings. You show up at all the meetings to keep everybody on the same page. You connect the dots. It is a management role. It's about personality. It's about communication. So I'd like to thank you for hosting this.
My pleasure.
For 8 years regarding our town. I intend to carry on with so many of your programs. Some things are going to have to change, but the town has never been so managed. Things out of our control that are going to force them to change.
Thank you.
I hope the people here have gained some insight into our plan to manage Guilford. I am endorsed by the party and almost every elected and prospective Republican leader in town. They want to work with me. I want to work with them. I also, you know what? Something else that bothers me, we didn't talk about this, and I've been talking to Representative Scanlon a lot about this. I'm very concerned about the opioid problem. And I see it. I talk to parents about it. I know it's not just us, it's everywhere, but you know, we've got to do our utmost to not let it get a bigger grip. I've talked to the police about it. They are brilliantly trained. It takes a lot of money and time and effort to get them to know what to do and how to do it, and how to treat people, and how to exercise discretion. This is it's an epidemic. It's not just us. But the way we deal with this is highly important. And when people ask me about it, the first two words I say are Sean Scanlon. He's taken a lead here. I want to work with him. I think he's doing a fabulous job. All that being said, I want to remind people that I am the most qualified people to represent our party in the primary and in November. I promise not to squander the values, the culture, the character of Guilford. Together, I'd really like us to keep Guilford strong. I encourage everybody to contact me.
Your website?
My website, hartmanforguilford.com. I'm hoping it's going to scroll down somewhere along the bottom at some point. Or call me here at the office, 453-8925.
Okay. And you are running with two fine individuals. You want to mention their names?
I'm so thrilled about this. First of all, we've got Charles Haverda, who's been a selectman for so long, and a local businessman, and the Water Commission board, and head of the board at the Guilford Savings Bank. He's a mentor. He's terrifically experienced. He's calm and informed, and he knows which way we ought to be going. I'm also thrilled to say that we've got Sue Renner joining us from the Board of Ed. She's her 8th year of the Board of Ed. She grew up in town. She went to high school with us. Her kids went through the school system. She knows how the Board of Ed works, everything about the education system, and she's going to be a great guide in helping us in that situation.
And Sue's background, she's a certified public accountant.
She is. She's treasurer of American Cruise Lines here in town. I got to know her not, outside of the school things and way back when, but also she was treasurer of Guilford Rotary.
That's right.
And just terrific in her insight, I think, and talents.
Good.
Yeah.
And one more thing you hit upon when you spoke about the training of the police with the opioid, which is extremely, extremely important. And I'm glad you touched upon that. But more and more training of police and fire, and we're getting back to budgets, I know.
Yeah.
I know we wanted to end this, has been the responsibility financially on the town over the last 8 years, where it used to be the state responsible.
Yeah.
So it's part of what we call the unfunded mandates, besides cutting our funding. So it's going to be a difficult couple of years coming down the road.
It is.
It's a whole new culture you're going to have to deal with. So I wish you a lot of luck. I wish you a lot of luck in the primary and the general election. I know you're going to do very well. And when you get into office, it's a tough job, but it's a good job. And like I told the 300 and some odd teachers this morning when I was at the convocation, that it's been an honor to serve. It's not a right, like some of the candidates think it is. It's an honor to serve the town of Guilford.
I believe that.
Good luck, Robert.
I believe that.
Take care.
Thank you very much.
And thank everybody for watching. And if you have any questions, you have his website, you have his phone number, and don't forget the primary is September 12th at all 5 polling locations, the same locations as you go to vote for referendums, for elections. And I believe the polls open at 7, close at 8, and it's all 5 locations for all registered Republicans. And if you're not a registered Republican, you got time to go down and register.
That's absolutely right.
Okay? Robert, thank you again.
Thanks, Joe.
Take
Appreciate
care.
it. Cheers.